Well, welcome back. This is Julie Baranick. Oh, you know what? I need my mic. It's over across the room. I feel like I'm missing something. Can you hear me
No
better
worries.
now?
Yeah. I sound clear on your side?
Yeah, you do.
Perfect.
All right, good. Welcome back. This is Julie Baranick, host of the Seven Figure Builder Show, and I'm here today with my friend Roderick Jefferson. Hey, Roderick.
Hey, Julie, how are you?
I am fabulous, and I'm excited to chat with you because you are the go-to-market transformational leader, you're keynote speaker, and best-selling author, and I am thrilled to have you on today. So welcome.
Thanks so much. I am honored to be here and catch up with you.
Thank you. Thank you. So tell us a bit about what it is that you do with your business and how you help your dream people.
Sure. So there are two parts of the business. On one side, we work with small to medium-sized businesses to really help them drive improved productivity and increase revenue from tools, processes, programs, platforms, from a coaching and consulting perspective. The other side of the house is I'm a keynote speaker, as you said earlier. So I'm out at conferences and associations and podcasts and things of that sort, really sharing the goodness of what's hanging out in the real world from two angles. Of course, I talk about sales and sales productivity, but then there's another side too, where there's a motivational piece. And I'd love to talk a little bit about that much later, of course.
Awesome. Awesome. I love that. And well, you know what? Why don't we dive in? Tell us a bit about your story and what brought you to where you are today.
Sure, my story starts a long time ago. I'm older than I look. All right. Thankfully, I can pull that off still. I started off in sales way back at AT&T, and I was a BDR inside sales rep and did well, got promoted to um, account executive AE, did well there, went to President's Club. And what do? We promote folks to sales leader. And I actually turned it down. And they thought I
Wow.
was nuts because I realized I love the process of selling more than I did taking down big deals. So I talked myself into my very first sales training job, right? And I said, what if I could do two things to my VP of sales? I said, one, what if I could get people up to speed and up to revenue faster? And secondly, what if I could give you a wonderful present of requiring more funding for folks going to sales um, leadership conferences and as well as making it to club. And he said, well, you've got a new job. I was like, okay.
Sold.
And that's the condensed version, of course. And so I went into training and I started sharing some basic rudimentary templates, things of that sort. And before I knew it, I had just awoke a monster inside of me of really helping other people to hit their goals as opposed to being responsible for a quota and things of that sort. And so from there, it turned from sales training to sales enablement. And I've been incredibly blessed, Julie, to have a great journey so far. I've run enablement at Siebel, eBay, HP, Oracle, Salesforce, Marketo. A couple of those are going to be big one day. I'm counting on the stock to take off. But the thing is, I decided about 7 years ago to start my company. And I said, what if I could help those smaller companies that needed my skill set and experience and tenure on a fractional basis that would save them money, but at the same time to give them the leg up on their competitors. And before you know it, Roderick Jefferson and Associates had been birthed.
I love that. And it's something that all companies need. I mean, without sales, we don't have a company. It's
Absolutely.
something that so many people struggle with, both in their comfort level and, expertise and skill basis. So what are the biggest gaps that you see, both that you've learned from yourself and what you see with your clients in sales?
Well, I think the first thing is that training and enablement and go-to-market transformation are very different. For the longest, and I think everyone's heard about sales enablement, right? Now that's really focusing on that direct seller. But what I've realized is it's now about go-to-market transformation, no longer just sales. You've got to look at things from marketing, product marketing, HR, engineering, and allow a consultant like myself to be the hub of all that spokes out, or if you've got a me in-house, to make sure that they're that hub that now is, as I call, the translators of dialects and languages. Right. We've got to speak all those other languages, excuse me, translate what they do and the value and the why they do it into sales speak, and then get the feedback back from sales into the language that matters to them. The second thing I would say is stop thinking about your sales processes, your forecasts, your sales methodology, your selling motions. Change your mindset and focus on the buyer's journey, how they buy, who buys, why they buy, and what's your key differentiation, your competitive advantage, and your business value. And that's the third piece that I would say is we're very good talking about our companies, what we do, our key differentiation, and our competitive advantage. Newsflash, your clients, your prospects only care about the third, business value. And I define it as so, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, what can you get by only working along with me in my company that will help you either increase productivity and efficiency or decrease pain? Because I don't know any other reason that people actually buy.
Absolutely. It all comes down to what's in it for me, right?
Absolutely.
And
100%.
that and relevance of, what do people need in that moment and whether you can solve that pain point for them. Otherwise, they don't really care.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter to them.
Yeah. So I know you've had quite the journey through the years to get here, but tell us a little bit about the other part of your business, right? Which is the keynote speaking, and a little bit about your journey.
Sure. So that one started back in college. I was a radio and television broadcast major. And prior to that, I was a high level athlete. So I always had microphones in front of me. So I got used to speaking broadly. And then when I got into corporate way back when, not only with the standing deliver in front of room, but then I was out talking to different companies and sharing those best practices. And I went, wait a minute, I'm giving away skill set here. There's an opportunity to start another part of the business. And so what I did was really started harvesting inside of my LinkedIn network, letting folks know that I was available, started working on one pagers and all those kind of things. And before I knew it, I was out there talking at large conferences. You know, I was talking to folks like Zoom and American Express and Uber. And then I was blessed enough to get on stage, not the big stage, the small stage at Dreamforce, which still was not a small stage, right? And I went, here's an opportunity to really help people again. It stopped after a while of it wasn't about the spotlight, it wasn't about being seen and things of that sort. It was really, I think I've got some great tips and tricks as well as practical application to be able to share folks. And then as I started my business, the third stage started, and it was like, why don't I utilize keynote speaking to go out and drive more consulting? You could hear what's going on. Now you can see practical application from case studies, things of that sort. And then people were saying, hey, you know that thing you talked about around building a charter, or we're starting an enablement group, but we're not really sure where to go. It sounds like you may have done this once or twice, and then it turned into other, excuse me, consulting opportunities.
Yeah, and it all comes down to building relationships in mass, right? Like with the keynote speaking, that's the place where you can talk to so many people and connect and help so many people at once.
Right. And there's a human side to it. It's one to many
Yeah.
because after you're done speaking, now I get a chance to step off the stage, kind of take that mask off, if you will, of the presenter and then get out. And that's the thing. I don't give presentations. I'm literally up there trying to have a one-to-one conversation with every single person in that room. Does it happen every time? No, nothing's always. But for the most part, what I want to do is show you how I can help you and your company, and not just the company, but that individual as well. Because what if I can help them get a louder voice in the company? What if I can help them get a promotion? What if I can help get them out of the doghouse sometimes? Right. And all of those things can happen based upon a given engagement of, to your point, Julie, what's important to them.
Absolutely. And I mean, obviously, you've been very driven in all that you've accomplished in your business and really
Thank you.
done a ton throughout your career. But how has that had a personal impact on you and really, helped to manage like with your balance and everything else that you have in your life?
Balance has always been an interesting word because we talk about work-life balance, and we both know it's somewhat of a mysterious misnomer these days, right? And I think there were good, bad, and ugly to those, and I'll talk about each of those. Personally, it gave me a chance to see the world. experience different cultures, work in different verticals and industries that I would have never before. I grew up and got my teeth cut in SaaS initially, but then it gave me an opportunity to jump into manufacturing, financial services, med tech, and I realized there's some common threads that each one of those have the same problems, but they call it something different. And of course, each of them thinks, "Oh, this only happens to me." Not exactly. Not how it works, right? And then the bad was because I was traveling so much, I started missing out on family events. I have to say it, I missed my daughter's eighth grade graduation. I was in Paris. It was a good
Mhm.
place to be, but not on that day. And so you start to say, I'm doing all this work to provide and protect, but sometimes I'm being pulled away more. And now the ugly. I had gotten used to, as most of us do, as entrepreneurs and or executives, you get that level of red line stress, and it just becomes the norm. Well, there's nothing normal about it. And about 2.5 years ago, my body shut down, and I had a massive fatal, and I mean fatal. I actually coded, died, and was brought back. I had a stroke. Thankfully, I've been able to fight back and get to where I am today. Unfortunately, most are not so lucky. So if I can tell folks one thing to help save them from what I went through, find some time to do things just for you. I realized my daughter asked me, she said, "Dad, what do you do for hobbies?" And I said, "What is this hobby thing you speak of, child?" All right. And then I had to take it seriously. I didn't have anything that I did for fun. I had a circle of friends that I probably missed out on more events than anything because I was working nonstop. And then that third piece was because I was working so hard to provide and protect. We had the great vacations. We got to move around. We've been blessed to live an amazing life. But as my kids got older, my children are much older, 34 and 25. And as they got into their 20s, they said, "Dad, we wish we would have had you here more and less of you sending pictures and videos and FaceTimes from very cool places all around the world," which, by the way, they made sure they told me we still have not gotten a chance to visit to yet. Thank you.
They have to earn that right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, and that's so true. And I mean, we do what we do for our families, but we have to be present for them, right?
Absolutely.
So looking back, what would you have done differently?
Two words, and you just said it. Be present. Even when I'm home, I find myself, as most of us, everybody's got a vice. Mine is definitely reels, Instagram reels. That
Mhm.
is definitely my vice. And what I've realized is while I'm indulging and watching other people laugh and have a good time and enjoy their life, I'm doing it as a spectator. So I've decided I'm going to be more present. First of all, um, there's no more phones at the table, right? There's no multitasking of watching TV and being on the phone. Pick one or the other because your brain needs some time to shut down. I'd say if you can find a way 2 hours before you go to bed, for me, it's like 8 o'clock, shut it down and just spend time. Find some time with you, your significant other, your pets, your dogs, your goldfish, whatever it may be. But find some time to just be present and to ask those questions, find out what's going on in their lives and share what's happening with you. The other thing I'd say, Julie, is be open, honest, and authentic. And I know it sounds so simple, but as I said earlier, we tend to put on this mask. I'm the executive, I'm the entrepreneur, I'm the CEO, I'm the speaker. When do you ever get to just be you? Because if you don't, invariably what you do will overtake who you are, and you will lose yourself in all of that. And you can't work in the business while you're working on the business, as we all tend to do. So find a way to split things up.
Yeah, and find a way to work on yourself.
Yeah, take some time just for you
Yeah.
because I've realized that if you don't take time for you, your body will make you slow down. And that is not what anyone wants for Christmas or birthday.
No, it is not. And I love what you mentioned about no phones at the table. My husband and I, we went out to dinner and we do this often, but we went out to dinner and there was a family, a big family sitting next to us at a table. And, it was for Father's Day actually. And The kids were all, they had a bunch of kids at the table. The kids were all engaged, no phones at the table. They were all talking, like just having fun and enjoying each other's presence. And it's sad to say, but that's a rarity anymore. Like usually kids are sitting at the table with the phones in front of their face. And so we always make a point to kindly, respectfully, like say, you know what? Great job, for your family.
I
But
love that. And it is so rare. And it's sad to say that you have to prioritize that. It should just be a part of being family, right? I truly believe that social media has made all of us less social because now I can determine whether or not I want to talk to someone, right? And on what level. We now are so quick to send out an emoji. I think conversation has dwindled down to a quick snippet or a an emoji or God forbid, even a quick 30, 10, 15-second reel. And now we have this Instagram, TikTok microwave mentality where anything above 15 to 30 seconds, I just don't have time for that. Guess what? We're doing the same thing with our relationships. And I'll take it back to a business perspective. Those one call closes rarely happen. So you have to nurture, you have to groom, you have to be authentic, and the big one, you've got to follow up all the time. And I get hit quite a bit on different things. And folks are like, there may be some things I'm really interested in, but if they don't follow up, I fall off. We tend to forget no matter what you do, you're not the only person that does it. And if there's no competition for what you do, you don't have a business. You just have a really expensive hobby.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that and it comes down to the relationship, like tying in with the follow-up. The more you can nurture that relationship and actually care about the person you're talking about and show genuine interest, the more they're actually going to engage and respond back.
Oh, absolutely. I firmly believe that there has never been a time in the history of man where leading with humanity, authenticity, EQ, and of course, data has meant more than it does today. And you notice data was last, right? A lot of people put it first.
Yeah. So what do you recommend for people? Like, do you have any tips or suggestions for people to do that?
Yeah, I absolutely do. Excuse me. As you're doing your pre-call planning, as we all do for going and prospecting, when you're looking at, because we all go to where first, LinkedIn, read between the lines what people say and what's important to them. Always make sure you're asking them questions about them. You've done your homework. You know the business. You've listened to their latest business reviews. You've looked at their 10K, their 10Q, right? You looked at them in depth and the company. You've done the website, all those things. You know what it rarely tells you? What matters to you? And again, how can I help you individually? We all talk about trying to create these champions in today's world. We are not here as whether you be in corporate or in consultants anymore to drive. We're here simply to validate because there's so much information out there. So take some time and make that personal connection because sales are what the relationships, as you said, are the business, the backbone of business. If I don't like you, I won't trust you. If I don't trust you, I won't work with you. If I don't work with you, I won't buy from you. Remember in that order. And then always go back to, as I said earlier, the buyer's journey. What's important to them? What do they buy? How do they buy? What do they buy? The other thing is stop talking about your products. No one cares about what you call them or what your products are. Focus on the why. Why do they need this? Why will this happen if they don't work with you? And always talk about from the very beginning, what does success look like to them? And how can you then work to reverse engineer step by step along with them?
Absolutely. And you hit on a couple big things there, but I want to mention your buyer's journey. I think that's something that a lot of people miss. And I remember being in the corporate world, when I first got into the corporate world, I had this vision that like they all knew what they were doing. They had a strategy, they were executing their strategy, like magic happened in the boardroom, and like that's just the way it worked.
Not so much.
No, and I quickly realized how people are successful in spite of themselves and how many blockers that businesses have from doing business with their clients. And I think they miss that of like, let's just be easy to work with. Like, what
Absolutely.
do you see in that?
I've seen in I mean, honestly, $100 million companies that don't have that lockdown yet, which is exactly why I started the company, right? As a fractional. And so what I would say is step back and reassess who your ICP is and who they are that you're moving forward to, right? Because a lot of companies need to stop for a moment and just kind of recalibrate, I'll say. First of all, I always ask the company, can you define, articulate, and who have you communicated to what your buyer's journey is, right? What's the connection and partnership between sales, HR, marketing, and enablement to either confirm or update? Here's a new acronym because we don't have enough. We know ICP, right? Ideal client profile. Let's look at IEP now, the ideal employee profile for where you're trying to go to, not where you are today, right? And then next, it's realigning your sales methodology, your sales stations, your motions, all your tools, assets, collateral, all those things on a regularly scheduled basis, i.e., reevaluate these every 3 to 6 months on how is it aligning to the buyer's journey, right? And then making sure that your different lines of business, and even if it's 3 people in the company, you all have a specific reason why and a high level of value and figure out are we, and you said it earlier, are we making it easier for our prospects and our clients to work with us? Because if not, you're acting as though they're working for you.
Absolutely. And I'm curious, you've done so much with your business, but why do you do what you do? Like, what is your driving factor?
At the end of the day, I'm a people person, right? And I may not make your life better, but after we've engaged, maybe it's a bit better. The second is why I do what I do is because, as I said earlier, that kind of 10 to $100 million range of companies, first, there's a lot of them. And secondly, how do they get to that next level? I've been one of them. I can speak from practical application of what it takes. I know what step 13 looks like when you're in step 6, and you may never get to it if you don't do step 9. And I want to do it on a fractional basis because, as I always say, I don't want to live in their business. I just want to stay there for a long weekend, right? And help them through advisory, through consulting. But most importantly, and here's where a lot of consultants fall off, we're here to help on the execution phase as well, right? And that's the whole guided implementation. Because there's a lot of times we'll tell them, here's what to do and how to do and why to do. And they go, okay, great. What are we supposed to do next? And I say we because there were myself and 2 partners, one another VP of sales who speaks a different language than me, and then a trainer who speaks even different. But all 3 of us continually and contiguously work across that entire engagement.
Absolutely. No, and I think that's so powerful. And what I'm curious, what does success look like for you? Like you've accomplished a ton, but what does that actually look like for you?
Success is one consistency around the value of GTM transformation and enablement. Right now, I think, and I say in my book, if you ask 10 people, you'll get 12 different answers.
Totally.
Right. Next is understanding the difference between training and enablement. I think you train animals, you enable people. Thirdly, I walk away from an engagement with, of course, the recommendation and the case study and all that, but also knowing that they would not be where they are on that next level had we not worked as a continuous, ongoing partnership. I'll tell you what, it's not. It's not about, oh, this is the best guy ever and he did this. I don't care about that because I had to learn a long time ago. If they're not happy, they'll tell everybody that listens. If they're happy, they will tell everybody that listens. You have an opportunity as a business owner out there, entrepreneurially or from corporate, to really craft the narrative of whether they're talking about great things or not so. Because at one point, we owned our own brand. Thanks to social media, we don't anymore, right? A couple of bad reviews, a couple of changes and downticks there and here are man, they're truly damaging. So ask those questions before they get out. And you know what? I've learned, and I had to take a while to get this, and you would think as a sales guy, I knew it. Discovery is not a one-time event, it's an ongoing occurrence. Constantly go back and get those touch points and say, hey, how are we doing? Not just, oh, we're at stage one and we're 80% of there. And if this happens in stage three, no, 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 no. Along the way, say, hey, remember, we agreed this is what its success looks like. Show them the roadmap in stages and then bring it down closer to the ground and show them where you are now, where you've been, and what the next step is. And I didn't say the next phase, the next step before you even get to the next phase. And what you're doing is you're building credibility. You're also building relationship as well. Because now, again, they're building trust in you and they're more apt and open to open up completely. And there may be a time where you slip up, it's going to happen. But they're a lot more forgiving if you've already built that relationship with them versus, oops, I blew it. And now they're like, oh God, what did I pay for? Did I just get more shelfware? No one wants that.
Absolutely. No, that's so true. And the more you can work together with that and just continue to build that relationship and that credibility, the more, people do share that good word about you and you'll have more clients coming your way. Like it's worth that investment into that relationship to get, more word out there. And yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I'm curious, if you had the attention of the whole world for 5 minutes, what would you tell them?
5 minutes. Wow, that is a great question. I would say that you've got to find and make balance, otherwise, your body will, for one. Secondly, I would say no one knows everything and is right all the time. So keep your mind wide open to learning something. Third, I would say try and learn one new thing every day. And it doesn't always have to be professionally. And then the final piece I would say is every day I start my day after I've done my morning ritual the same way. I write up on my board the top three things that I'm going to get done today professionally. That means I'm not turning off my laptop until I do those three things. But here's the catcher. There's always one thing on there that's number four that is a personal thing just for me so that I don't have to constantly remind myself to take care of me. It has now become a part of my daily routine.
I love that. I love that. And to add on to that, I personally have my personal health and well-being has become a much higher focus point in my life recently. And I've, done time blocking and everything else for my business, but I've now taken to time blocking for my workout for like my own personal health and well-being. So I would echo that very much.
I love that. I do the same thing. I do the time blocks throughout the day. One, your brain needs to reset, right?
Mhm.
Jumping and constantly changing hats all day confuses the brain. We may not think so. But the thing is, know yourself. And what I mean by that is, I know that I am best in the morning when if I'm going to exercise. So I just blend it into my day before I get started with my day professionally. Because otherwise, one, I won't make time for it. And secondly, I'll be dead tired. The other thing is, if you are a morning person, do all of your cerebral work in the morning and get it knocked out, and then use the afternoon for your admin stuff or for your calls or for your outbound um, calling. If you're the opposite, flip flop it. There, you can see a million people that have sold books and courses, etc., on how to be productive, but nobody tells you how to be productive your way. There's no one way to be productive, and productive, the definition of it can only be defined by you. It's kind of like success, right? Some are super successful outwardly. Others are, you know what? I've lost 20 pounds. Others are, I don't beat myself up and I've learned how to give myself grace. And that's the other thing. Give yourself some grace. None of us are robots, and we all burn out too easily. You can extend that by simply treating yourself the way that you treat others. Rarely do we do that, though.
Absolutely. I love that. And for people listening that definitely want to get a hold of you, where can people find you online?
I always say if you can't find me on social media, you're not trying. Right? You can find me at Roderick Jefferson on LinkedIn, Roderick underscore J underscore associates on Instagram, at the voice of Rod on X and threads, or you can just hit my link tree, which is linktree / Roderick Jefferson. And Julie, I'll give you all of those. Hopefully you'll throw it into the show notes and
Absolutely.
make it easy for people. There it is. See, making people easier for people.
Exactly, exactly. Yes, we'll have everything in the show notes so people can come find you. And thank you for being on today, Roderick. This was truly amazing.
Thank you so much. I was absolutely honored, Julie. Great to catch up with you again.
Thank you, you as well. And if you found value in this episode, please do share it. That's how people find us. And you can find me at sevenfigurebuilder.com. And I will see you on the next episode.